Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Spiritual as Fuck or Whatever podcast. I'm Roxan McDonald.
And I'm Joe Clements.
And today we're going to talk about Joe's dukkha. But before that, listen to this really great song that Joe wrote because I was almost an hour late. Yeah. All right, Joe. We're going to talk about dukkha because of what happened after we recorded the Eightfold Path episode. Right?
Yeah.
So should we talk about how many text messages went back and forth? Or should we get into dukkha? Like,
I mean, think it was 2 full weekends of me going, I don't know. Well, yeah.
Yeah. I think you explain. I mean, let's actually talk about what went down with all the text messages and how you're feeling. And then we can get a little bit more into dukkha. Because you've described dukkha a couple times on like.
Because I know dukkha well.
Yes. Okay. So we recorded the Eightfold Path episode, and it was my idea because I think you know enough about it, and it also illuminates stuff about Buddhist practice and philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were resistant to doing it in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then once we did it, there was a spiraling out.
It was.
Okay. So what happened for you, Joe?
What happened for me? I think the dukkha for me is that because I'm in this role.
What's the role?
The role of teacher.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily a Dharma teacher, but definitely I'm a Dharma practitioner.
So Dharma, what does Dharma mean? Because
Dharma it means truth or teachings. So when we say Dharma, it's like Buddhist teachings, I think is what basically they're talking about with Dharma. And
in case people haven't listened to the other episodes, dukkha is suffering.
Dukkha is suffering.
Okay.
And it's more, it gets misinterpreted like life is suffering. It's more there's suffering in life, where it's our relationship to fucking knowing things or not knowing things. I talk about dukkha as the shit moments. Fuck, when we're not getting what we want, or we are getting what we don't want, kind of thing. It's our own internal suffering, kind of thing. So the Buddhist practice is, my understanding is alleviating that suffering, and in turn, maybe we can alleviate some of the suffering in the world, but it starts with ourselves. It's how we suffering from the fucking addiction to our mind, our emotions, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Does that answer it?
That does. Yeah. So then back to you. You had a bad case of Dharma dukkha.
I had Dharma dukkha, which is fucking crazy because it's like, and it happens to me all the fucking time. I was doing a weekly group at a Dharma center, an insight center, and I would fucking...
What's a Dharma center?
Well, insight, it's like I'm
just trying to keep us...
Yeah, I know.
It's a Buddhist meditation center.
Yeah, it's a fucking Buddhist church.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Buddhist church is different than a meditation center. Yeah, there's like cultural Buddhist churches. Is. Yes. Oh. Okay, so
anyway, yeah. So
but insight is a Vipassana centered.
Yeah,
which is
where
like,
it's a place where they teach Buddhist teachings and meditation and stuff like that.
And so to teach there, you have to be approved by the center. Like, so then you're like an official Dharma dude when you're doing that.
Total Dharma dude. I was like total, you are a Dharma dude. Okay. But I still was like, I'm not a Dharma dude. Okay. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So every fucking week I would just be like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I need to say this. And I would always like, I need to be more smart. I need to really know these things. And it would take me out of like what I really know through the practice is my experience, is how it's transformed my life, really. Like basically my relationship to my life. You know, my life is my life, but it's definitely transformed how I navigate through life. So I was like always trying to know more. So it was like a lot of suffering. I can't do it. I can't. I'm not a Dharma teacher. I'm not. And even in that episode, I say that I'm not a Dharma teacher. And in a sense, it's totally true, but in another sense, I totally am. You know, but when I go into like other places, when I go into rehabs or I go into juvenile hall, I'm totally authentic. I'm like, because
you're okay with that. You're comfortable with that role.
Totally.
Because what's the difference?
Because I can come in there with what I know from the heart, and I don't have to be so smart, in a sense, where it's like I know the suffering of addiction. I know the suffering that a lot of the youth are going through in the hall, and it's more. Maybe it's this, and maybe it's that they're not there to. I think that I'm going to these insight places, and they want to know more about the Buddha's teachings, and I don't really get into the Buddha's teachings when I'm teaching in the juvenile halls or in the rehabs. I'm like, when I feel like, oh, I do this, and I feel a little more. So that's
I wish that we could make a like a workshop and have that, like what to do when you feel like, oh,
yeah,
and we'll give you tools to go, oh.
Yeah, for sure.
How would we write that? Like we're teaching at Esalen.
From to ah.
No, but you need to get the like.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what we talk about on this podcast all the time.
Yeah, like
it's like
salt getting
and then to like, okay,
salt getting poured on a fucking slug. It's like, so I don't know, and I think it's in one. I want to honor the Buddhist the teachings because it is, and being a teacher I think is super fucking. I can't find the word, but it's an honor, you know, and it's like, I don't want to take that lightly. So it's like, I kind of get in this like, oh, I need to really represent the fucking Buddhist teachings in more of a cognitive way. And that's not what it's about. Well, that's not my understanding. My understanding, it's more of an experience.
Yeah.
It's my experience. And it's unfolding. I'm learning new shit about myself through the practice every fucking day, every moment. So that to translate that, to articulate it, is really fucking hard for me, and it takes a while. So if I'm going through something, I can't just like, I went through this and now this is what I did. It's like, oh yeah, I remember I was like this is a big teaching for me.
What's this?
This talking about the dukkha around teaching Buddhism. You know, or Buddhist teachings, you know, and how I want to fix it. I want to know. And we talked about it before, the imposter syndrome. Some of my stuff is like not being good enough, not smart enough, all that enough shit, you know, so that really shows up big time, you know, and listening back to the episode, it's like, I know what I knew. And there was a couple things. And what really came up for me was like, we were talking about, and I want to talk about this because it fucking got glazed over and it was a great joke, and I didn't even fucking catch it till later. I'm like, oh, sutras. It was a sutra, and I was trying to explain that, and you're like, oh, like the Kama Sutra. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but no. But I'm like, it has nothing to do with the Kama Sutra. It's like not about any fucking sexual positions at all.
Is it called sutta or sutra?
Sutta. And it means the same fucking thing.
Okay.
Sutras means a teaching.
Yeah.
You know, and so does
sutta.
sutta. And
okay.
sutra is I think Sanskrit, and sutta is Pali.
Okay.
And that's all it is. And then I said, what did I say? I said that's the it's the Buddhist Bible, and that's not so true. That's not true either.
Okay, I want to back up before we get to this.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about how you can text.
I'm
like
trying to fix. See how I'm trying to fix that shit.
Yeah. Well, because I do want to set it down, because like I think if we do anything, it's to be transparent about both of us stepping into going, we are teachers, we have some expertise, we have something to offer, and then to get honest with like. So we filmed it or recorded it, and then I mean, it was like text and
because I wanted to
videos
fix it,
and you wanting to fix it, and then I could see so much happening where I was like, well, wait, you offered something, but then there was this I could hear, it's almost like I could see all of the people that you were afraid of judging you surrounding you. And like, I mean, I don't know, there's this old movie where there's all these kids that like surround a bird and are throwing rocks at the bird and until the bird dies. And I could just picture like all of your the people that are going to judge you or you're afraid of letting down or all that stuff. It was just like, I was like, oh, Joe's like being a little bird getting rocks thrown at him.
Damn.
And I kept wanting to, you know, get you to feel like you don't have to listen to them. Yeah. But then the other part is like, well, why don't we just jump into that? Well, what do we do? Because we all have that experience.
Yeah.
You see to have it around this thing, I think that is so special to you, and it comes up so big. And then also connected to this wounding about not being smart enough. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I mean, I think that how do we deal with it when we get surrounded like that? And I guess, how do you deal with it? And then also we also did want to give you a chance to like say like, you were nervous. I can fix it. You can fix it. But also, it's like, this is a human experience.
I love it because...
And nobody throws rocks at my little bird. My little Joe
I see you like, get the fuck out of the way.
He's smart. He's good.
Yes.
We like him how he is.
Well, that's
how I feel. I like you, Joe. Okay.
I can see you do it.
I do it all the time.
And you do it. And I love that about you, but I don't want to turn it into that you're just fucking saving me again. Oh, save me, Roxanne, you know? Anyway, no. So how I am with this is, one, reaching out to you, that I'm in this with another fucking perspective. Can you just, and I trust you. You would have like, no, it's all good. You'd be like, yeah, dude, you're blowing it really hard. So let's.
Well, your fix it video was a little like morose.
It was super morose. I was like, oh, so shameful. It was. That's why I sent you both, because, and that's what happens for me. And there's a couple things. One, there's progress with that, where I didn't just do that. And then I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, you know, because I've done that before. It's like, I think I fucked up. I try to fucking fix it. And then it's just like this spiral of like shame, and you blew it more and more. So the practice of meditation, of being in touch with my emotions, my thought process, through meditation, through my practice, that I know that that's a part of my shit. That's a part of my dukkha. I see my dukkha. I know the dukkha. It doesn't mean that I don't fucking feel that shit still. I'm less apt to fucking react to it. And I did in a way, but I didn't totally react. I was responding, and it was like this clunkiness, and I'm so happy that I had support. I reached out to you. I reached out and talked to my wife about it, you know, and it's like, and other people, I talked to a few people about it and got good reflection.
But
people
you
that
text
I trust.
Them a lot?
No, I just do that with you because it's like how we're communicating. But so communicating that and not just reacting. I was, getting talked off the fence a little bit, and watching myself not look for the answer. That's always what I do, is like, tell me what I need to do. It was more, how do you see this? How do you see? I talked to a couple of my teachers about it, a couple of my really close friends. And so that's how I process with it, and just being with the discomfort and not fucking trying to fix it. And I just did it then,
Yeah. Well, so then I also just want to, I thought you were going to call me out on my response to my "When Shit Just Sucks" episode of the migraine, because I did the exact same thing. So I'm just going to
call yourself in?
I kind of thought you were going to, but you're not. So I don't want it all be on you. Is that I had a very similar reaction of like, I don't want that out there. It sounds like I'm just whining all the time. Yeah. I cried about my brother already. It's all Roxanne having this thing. So that kind of dukkha you know, but what, and I like that you're saying to sit with it, and then and I question, what's the difference between sitting in your shit or your dukkha and wallowing in the dukkha?
Right.
And how do we know the difference? And how do you know the difference between being present with the dukkha and wallowing in the dukkha? Because there's running from the dukkha, there's fixing the dukkha, there's being present with the dukkha, there's addressing the dukkha, there's wallowing in the dukkha.
I think all that kind of, like, the addressing, the knowing, I think the wallowing is believing the dukkha and just getting stuck in it.
Yeah.
Is that, like, believing the stories that our mind is coming up with.
Yeah, and I think wallowing is the often where I used to say this to kids that I was working with, because I'd be watching them, we'd be working together, and I'd be like, you know what I see is just like everyone's just got their kiddie pool, and it's their kiddie pool, they're in it, and then they it's just filled up with their own shit. And then they're like throwing their own shit up in the air, and then it's flying up and falling back on them, and then they're going, why is the world shitting on me? And it's like, it's your shit, it's your kiddie pool, it's you throwing in the air. Of course there's shit that happens in the world that we don't have control over, but that visual for me is like, I have to check in a lot of going, okay, there's a level of just accepting that we're gonna be in a kiddie pool, and we're gonna have our own shit. But am I throwing it up in the air, and am I crying that it's hitting me?
Right.
And that for me is the wallowing part, where I start blaming the world. I start thinking like, well, this is just the entire world is just this, like, that's like wallowing in the dukkha.
That's, I kind of feel the same way. It's almost, I feel like it on the other side, not, it's in the same sense of the, it is what it is. It is, and it is just this way. I'm just like this. Or whatever, you know. I really think that's a big bypass rather than
that's just the way I am.
Yeah. Just it is what. Yeah, you know. It's like, this is just me, you know. And how many times have I been in that, you know? And you know, well, that led me to addiction or whatever it was, because it's just me, and this, the only thing that I can find peace is through fucking whatever addiction I was into, you know. So not just getting complacent with this is what it is, and how we don't is like acknowledge that this is fucking, and I think it has to come because I have been practicing, I have been doing the work. So sometimes this fucking awareness, this mindfulness shit, all I get to be is painfully fucking aware that this is fucking the story that always comes up for me. And I'm super aware of it. So I'm in it. I'm not stuck in it. I know how to, I don't necessarily get through it. I don't like push through it, but I know that the ways that I can, first just like fucking put my hand on my chest. It's like, it's not true. You know, just like really like almost retraining the mind, retraining the heart. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it brings a little ease. And then talking about it with friends, close people, not talking about it too much, but still we can talk about it. Like you talking about you're fucking going through some physical shit, you know, and you're able to fucking process it, and I wasn't trying to fix it.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to fix my shit. You know, you're just like seeing the shit, you know, and reflecting maybe a different lens on it. Yeah.
I think there is actions we can take.
Yeah.
There are ways that we can address parts of ourselves, because I think that concept of when somebody goes, that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
I think one kind of special experience of mine and why I am who I am is because early on I was in communities where it was like that just wasn't the motto. Like it was always like, you have power to be who you truly want to be. So, and it was, you know, it was like I was in the yes school, we were in counseling constantly. It was like, you have the ability to address any behavior that you have.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you're going to make yourself perfect, but that it's never just like passive, like, well, I'm just a liar.
Yeah.
I just have to lie. Or I just do this thing, or I'm just really cruel to myself. And so when people have been like, well, that's just the way I am. I'm like, it just doesn't ring true to me because it's not in my bones. Like I don't know if I've ever said that. I have had to grow to acceptance of, I need to accept myself for needing extra care. I need to accept and love myself that I have some physical differences that make it so I have to show up in a different way than I'd like to. But about my behavior, like even with the thing when I was like about the chakras, when we were talking and I was like, I had this level of self-hatred. And then when I was like, oh, that I'm not a person that just goes, I accept that.
Right.
Because we do have agency. And you have it where you are addressing it. You're talking about it. You're airing it out. You're not holding it in.
Right. I know the it that is.
Ooh.
But because
that's a deep motherfucker. Well, because I know the it that is. What is that?
The it is that this is uncomfortable and this is the story that I've been holding on to for a long fucking time. And that's the it. And the it is that it's uncomfortable. And I don't want to fucking feel uncomfortable. None of us do. You know? So it's like, and I know that it's impermanent too.
It is.
It is. This discomfort is impermanent and it just sucks to be in. And my practice is not trying to fix it and meeting myself right the fuck where I'm at. That I'm fucking good enough. I know enough. And sometimes I get tripped up. Sometimes I get excited and I know things but I can't articulate them and cool. Okay. I'm not harming anybody, you know, and I hope I'm not misleading anybody. You know, so it's all how it's my big thing is how I'm perceived. And like you said, like who's going to throw the rocks at me when I'm fucking flapping my wings around, you know, and fuck them if they do, you know, I'm okay because I'm learning. I say that now because I'm stepping out of the fucking dukkha a little bit because I have been processing it.
Yeah.
But when I was in it, I was like, oh my God. You know, so it's not who I truly am. I'm not that fucking person that the mind says that I am. It's impermanent, and saying that that's just who I am or whatever is unsatisfactory. Clinging to this is I, me, and mine.
Clinging.
Yeah.
Quit your clinging.
It's hard though.
But it's just like a good mantra. Quit the clinging.
Quit the clinging, and it's something, and it's not our fault. It's not. That's how fucking we've been conditioned this way we've been talking to ourselves. I've been talking to myself this way for fucking years, my whole life. You know, here I am, mid to late 40s, learning how to deal with emotions, not react to them, and learning to respond. And that's what the mindfulness practice has done for me, is learning to respond to these emotions, to these thoughts, rather than react. I was reacting, always getting rid of, not wanting to feel. And like I said, sometimes all we get to do is feel. You know?
I think also about it takes some swagger to be accepting of the self. And I think about like, so teaching writing, I've taught writing full time for a while and for many years now. And so much of what I do is trying to get people to their authentic voice, because that's what we want. And that if somebody tries to sound smarter than they are, it never comes off well. If somebody tries to sound more philosophical than they are, if they try to sound more emotional, more anything, even if the words are right, it just doesn't come off. And that getting us to consistently go, you are like, be exactly who you are. Even if you're creating a situation where you're writing fiction about some, you know, living on Mars with turtle people. If you are trying to sound more creative, more intelligent, more anything than you are, it's not going to come off well. And so with life, I see the same thing about leaning into just going, well, what if I'm just as smart as I'm going to be? Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Whew. It's a radical act.
it takes swagger, but it also takes being okay with going, like that breaking down of the ego. So I feel like there's this breaking down of the ego idea that we go, I'm going to break down the ego. So I'm going to be like this idea of humble that says nothing is good about me, or nothing actually matters. But then I think part of breaking down the ego too is being willing to step in and go, I have skills, I have gifts, and being honest and open with that, and going, and my job is to be, staying true to what that is.
Right.
And just consistently checking in. Am I trying to be something I'm not?
Mm-hmm.
Am I diminishing something I am?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I think about it. I don't know if we've ever talked about my Madonna response. Have we ever talked about that on here?
We are right now, and
Okay.
I'm fucking super into it.
Do you know this?
No, I want to know.
So growing up, whatever, stars and people, they can have many facets. So just take this as this tiny sliver of an experience of Madonna. Okay. Growing up, she was this incredible role model for me about feminism and self-acceptance. And so she was like the first star that like I remember just being like, wow,
Yeah.
And then right when she hit like real stardom, the people came out with those grainy photos of her that looked like she was in a porn. And she was naked and, doing, whatever. And it came out, and it had ruined, those kind of things had ruined other stars. And that it was just this like inundation, and that she backed up. And then I remember her going, and I think it was like Farm Aid or something. And she like gets up and she was all, you guys want me to take my clothes off again or something? Like, fine, I did that. Like and then and she had this like,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Like, you guys are all talking about this, whatever, but then it kept on and kept on. And then she goes, fine. You want to see my pussy? Here's a book called Sex. And it's me, every position you could possibly have it in. Here it is. I'm going to write about it. I'm going to do it. Boom. Right. Yeah. And then, so when I think about things that I'm like, ugh, I got judged, I'm scared, maybe I did something I don't feel super good about or whatever, I think about Madonna just being like, there's my pussy. Like, and that's what I think, like, when I'm just all fine, there's my pussy.
So that's what I need to do.
Yes. Like, there. I say sutta. Yes. He spread his legs. Yeah. I actually forgot that I'm wearing a skirt. Yeah. So I really
You're
hope.
welcome.
I'm going to have to, but to just do that about all of it, like all of us.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm just this is who I am. Like, that's just the way it is. It's to just go like, all right, I'm going to get judged.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Especially the more you do.
Yeah.
The more you put yourself out there. And I think that's what's been going on for, not that I'm Madonna's or any, anyway, I've been putting myself more out there. Things have been doing more stuff, and there's a reason why. There's a reason. It's because I can land in the authentic, vulnerable, I am right where I am kind of thing. But I teeter a little bit, right? Like, I need to know, and I have been that, like, I'm trying to be more philosophical, or I'm way underneath. Like, I don't know shit. Yeah. So so I think it is just putting ourselves out there.
Putting your pussy out there.
Putting your pussy out there. And just put it out there.
Yes.
And I grow. Or
to know, sometimes it's like there are parts of me that I don't put out there.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to hear people's response to this. And if I have a choice, then I don't put it out there all the time. Or, so you have a choice, but I also think once it's there, once you're already getting surrounded by your judgmental people and your fears and your self-hatred and stuff, I think that the response to like being the surrounded little bird is to have radical self-acceptance. And that includes I'm going to address the parts that don't serve me.
Right. Well, and that's part of my practice is that's sitting in it, not wallowing in it.
Yeah.
Because then I can really know what is true. The only way that I can find any clarity in any of this shit is being quiet and still. Just being with, not just, like I said, like trying to get rid of. It's like, this fucking really hurts. This is scary. You know, how am I, it's been a big story for me. How am I going to be perceived? And that was a big thing for me for a long time. And it's a little smaller, but it's still there. And honoring that, because I can learn from that. There's a lot of clarity that comes from it. And I use this word a lot. And Kylie, this is for you. There's more discernment when I can sit in it. My niece Kylie goes, I love your podcast. You love the word discernment. And I'm like, I do.
I love
it's
the
a
word,
new word for me.
I love the word and.
And
I say and because I was trained not to say but.
So and
if it's not in opposition, you don't say but, because you discount
and.
what you say.
Yeah.
But then when I've been listening to the podcast, I'm like, we both say discernment a lot, and I say and.
You do. You'll look at me, you'll go, and. Like, yes, Roxanne, tell me the and. See, here we are.
Back to dukkha. Back to dukkha.
See what I do? Jeremy, can you cut that?
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe, I think you have a beautiful pussy.
Thank you. Never mind. I am a beautiful pussy. No?
Yeah.
Can I
Madonna,
say that?
I don't know.
I know.
I mean, if you've listened to the whole podcast, you're going to understand.
To
if you just popped
I'm
in
really
right
trying
now,
to watch my words with that.
Yes,
It's like what I can
and I always lead
is,
you into saying the wrong thing.
You do. You bait me for sure.
I do.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
So listen to if you're just hearing this podcast for the first time, or this one, you're checking out our podcast, and this is the first one you are listening to, go back a couple.
Yeah, go to some other ones.
Go to some other ones, and you'll see where a lot of this topic is coming from. And I think the message here is that there's nothing needs to be fixed. We're not broken. We're perfect. We're perfect with room to grow.
And face your shit and deal with how you affect others.
Be with it. Be with it. And the double-edged sword of mindfulness, awareness, is sometimes you're just fucking painfully aware. You know, and that's part of it. But when we're aware, we can learn from it. If I'm just in delusion, just that is what it is, or this is the way I am, it's just I'm fucking repeating the cycle of suffering. I'm trapped in samsara.
Samsara?
Samsara. Yeah.
What's that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
Next episode.
Oh, really? So you're going to do more Dharma talks, Joe?
I'll do it as much as I can. I love this stuff. I really do. And I'll try to articulate it as much as I can. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad.
And it's an old practice, you know. It's like old words, Pali words, you know. It's like this forgotten language, samsara. You know, we don't use that shit, but I love that word, samsara.
Yeah, that's a good word. Okay, you think we're done? Are we done with your dukkha?
Never. No.
But are we done with this dukkha?
Yeah, for sure. I feel better.
Yeah, Dharma dukkha is done.
Dharma dukkha is done. And I still want to fix it. Yeah.
Well, discerning between...
Nothing needs to be fixed.
Okay, so I have some announcements I actually didn't talk to you about. Sorry, I just whacked the mic. My little decks, the spiritual as fuck and grateful as fuck decks, got picked up by Barnes and Noble. And when we put the word fucking on the box, we knew that it wasn't going to get into Barnes and Noble because they don't take anything that has curse words on the box.
Fuck that.
And they just out of nowhere decided to pick them up. So
with fucking?
And on the back it says motherfucking. So if you want to support me,
you do.
Please go to Barnes and Noble, either online or in person, and get the decks at Barnes and Noble, because we are changing the world one little fucking fucker word at a time.
But not even supporting you, supporting yourself. These are fucking cool.
Yeah. Oh,
It's just,
thanks, Joe.
they really are. It's like, it's a simple way, and it's like a realistic, authentic way of like looking at how we can be spiritual and not spiritual.
Yeah.
And if you
well,
want
I
to be
think of them
that
as
too,
like little
but
self-help books in a
they're
box.
super
You could
cool.
take
They're
them.
inspiring, and it's,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
And I'm so like every time I think about that Barnes and Noble picked them up, I get teary-eyed because I'm like, this
Beautiful.
was so outside of what we thought was going to happen. And yeah, so, and if you do happen to go to Barnes and Noble and get them, take a picture of yourself at Barnes and Noble and send with my decks and send it to me, and I will totally post it because I want people to know that you could go get them. All right. So now with my little plug over, my little win that we've had.
And it's because you didn't fucking believe the dukkha.
I didn't. Well,
Yeah.
I faced it.
He
I
faced
just went,
the dukkha.
okay, these are, I did it. We went back and forth with the Knock Knock is the publisher, and they're lovely. They're incredible people. And we kept going back and forth, and we just went, this is the spirit of these decks. And I'm okay if they don't end up going in, I don't want to water down the energy of these, because they're not for everybody. They're for like, my idea is like rejects and delinquents and like spiritual seekers, and like I really wanted them to be
The
both
spiritual
in like
misfits.
yes,
Yeah, I like it.
And people that are maybe just wanting to have some playfulness involved. So we chose to put the words on the box to just have people know what they were getting into as well, but then to have it just be like somebody at Barnes and Noble like gets it.
That's
cool. And then somehow I've decided to put them in their stores for the holiday seasons. They're great gift ideas.
Great stocking stuffers. Boom.
Yeah, we actually made them to be the size of to do.
Okay,
We want the cards to be so you can stick them in your pocket, and you can also stick them in a stocking.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm happy for you. Super proud.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, do you want to start thanking people?
Yes. So thank you. We want to thank we call him our podcast guru, Jeremy, and you can find him at the Betterment Bros. Is it Betterment Bros podcast? Yeah. Yes. And at Flicks and Six podcast. So check those ones out. And yeah.
Thank you to everyone who has liked and subscribed, or has subscribed and reviewed the podcast. If you want to support us with a very simple thing, you can just get on iTunes and click the 5-star thing, and then even just get in the review thing and go, I like them. And that will help. Just, I like them. Yeah. Can that be good?
Can you say it? I want to hear that, but I like them.
I like them. Just anything like that. It really helps. I actually have been paying more attention to looking when I look at podcasts, and I will, when they have more reviews and 5-star, all that, I actually am more apt to listen to them. So I'm like, oh yeah, it does work. Yeah. So like, subscribe, review, pass it on to friends. Please, thank you. You can also, if you want to help ensure that this podcast continues, you could become a member of our Patreon community. And for as little as $4 a month, that's $1 an episode, you can support us in all the costs and blah, 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 blah.
A lot of stuff.
And also help us to move forward on all the projects we're going to be doing. So that's Patreon. If you look on Patreon, I can't remember the like URL thingy. It's going to be in the show notes. But also, if you get on Patreon and you look up Spiritual AF, you'll find us. Joe and I are on there. We have like blow up pool toys.
We do. Yes.
So
it's a unicorn.
Also,
there's unicorns.
We are doing the Get Your Head Right for the Holidays thing on there. So Joe is doing 3 meditations a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing gratitude lists, and some people are participating. So it's going to help with getting resources to just get like hella calm and grounded before you are suffering the Christmas dukkha, the holiday dukkha.
Know that dukkha for sure.
Not all things are dukkha, but you can enjoy it and be present. But anyway,
it's our
so
relationship to the holidays, not the holidays themselves. That's the dukkha.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace. When you're feeling shit out of luck. Remember your spirit.